Taylor Swift has given thousands of interviews over the past 20 years, but there was something different about the way she showed up at the Grammy Museum's Clive Davis Theatre on August 18th. Not performing for an arena, not managing a soundbite for a morning show, but sitting across from Recording Academy CEO Harvey Mason Jr. in front of roughly 100 of her actual peers, working songwriters and composers. And in that room, stripped of the usual spectacle, Swift opened up in a way that felt genuinely unguarded. Perhaps the most candid thread of the entire conversation came when Mason asked Swift how she's managed to keep creating, despite the sheer unrelenting scale of her fame. This wasn't a soft, rehearsed answer. Swift acknowledged something a lot of artists at her level rarely admit out loud, that the enormity of her own career can at times genuinely overwhelm her. "I go through several processes and coping mechanisms that I've gone through over the years," she explained, and then she shared the one that seems to matter most. When the weight of it all creeps in, she says she brings herself back to a single grounding thought: "You chose this." It's a small phrase, but sit with what it's actually doing. It's not deflection, and it's not a polished piece of PR. It's Swift describing in real time the internal negotiation she has with herself when fame starts to feel like something happening to her rather than something she built. That kind of self-talk isn't the language of someone performing confidence for an audience. It's the language of someone who has genuinely had to work to hold on to her own sense of agency inside a career that operates on a scale most people can't fully imagine. Swift also got vulnerable about the actual purpose behind her music, and more specifically about who it's really for. Rather than talking about charts or streaming numbers, she framed her entire creative process around a much more personal idea. "I'm making music because I'm playing for the fans," she said. "I'm putting this out for people who care about it and who look to music as a way to cope with their life in the way that I did." That last clause is easy to skim past, but it's one of the more revealing lines she offered all afternoon. A quiet acknowledgement that she herself has used music as a coping mechanism, the same way so many of her fans use her own songs. She went on to describe her songwriting as being rooted in emotional truths, while also acknowledging something a lot of artists struggle to say honestly: not every song, not every story is going to land with everyone. Rather than chasing universal approval, an almost impossible standard for someone as scrutinized as she is, she said artists need to understand why they create in the first place, even if that means accepting that some of what they make won't resonate with everyone listening. Some of the most honest moments in any interview slip out sideways, in the space of a laugh rather than a heavy pause. And Swift had one of those too. Talking about how she handles online criticism and mockery, she admitted, with a grin, "Sometimes when people are mocking me, it's really fun to mock them back. Sometimes I have to use words that they have to look up in order to talk shit about." It's funny on the surface, but underneath the joke is something quietly telling. An artist who has spent 2 decades being publicly picked apart, admitting that she still feels the sting of it enough to want to clap back, even if she's found a clever, controlled way to do it. That's vulnerability wearing a smirk instead of tears, and in some ways it's more honest than a solemn confession would have been. The other place Swift let her guard down was in how she talked about home, specifically Nashville, and the songwriting community that shaped her before any of the fame arrived. "I love my country roots more and more the further along this path I get, and I want to honor them more and more and more," she said. "I feel more tied to them, more loyal to them. The people that shaped who I am as an artist and as a writer, that all happened in Nashville." There's something genuinely tender about an artist at the absolute peak of global pop stardom circling back, unprompted, to the small-town songwriting scene that made her, recalling, almost wistfully, the story of Faith Hill being discovered at the Bluebird Cafe, and admitting it became a personal goal of hers to perform there herself. It's the kind of detail that doesn't serve any promotional purpose. It's just a person being honest about where their heart still lives. If her words carried vulnerability, her performance carried it even further. Sitting down at the same flower-covered piano that anchored her Eras Tour's surprise song segment, Swift moved through a 3-song medley, "I Knew It, I Knew You," into August, into the extended All Too Well, that without a single explanatory word traced heartbreak, longing, and love across 3 completely different chapters of her life. She described writing the newest of those songs as a pressure release valve, an escape into my imagination. That she chose to follow it immediately with 2 of her most emotionally raw earlier works suggests the medley wasn't just a performance. It was closer to a confession, set to music. None of this happened on a massive stage, in front of tens of thousands of fans. It happened in a small theater, in front of 100 songwriters, at a moment when Swift had every reason to keep things light and celebratory, fresh off her wedding, in the middle of one of the busiest, happiest stretches of her career. Instead, she chose honesty. And for the people lucky enough to be in that room, that choice may end up being remembered as the most genuine glimpse of Taylor Swift that any audience has gotten in years.